Hey guys, how's it going? This is our last week on this series, Afterlife, as we look at the life of Peter and how his encounter with Jesus after the resurrection changed his life. And this week, even though we are a week after Easter, this series has been a reminder to me that what happened that first Easter Sunday changed everyone's life. And the fact that it can do the same for us too. And there's often a word attributed to this, and it's God's grace. It's His kindness, His love, it's His favour, even when we don't deserve it. And it was this that helped change everything for Peter. So let's understand why. I think we can all be a little bit like Peter. And what I mean by that is we can speak before we think. We can act before we think. Basically, we can do anything before our brain actually takes a moment to tell us to rethink and act appropriately. You see, Peter cuts a guy's ear off, walks on water, tells Jesus he would never deny him, only then later that night denies him, knowing even Jesus 3 times. And we probably haven't done those things, but if you've done any of them, please let me know. I'd be quite interested to hear about that. But we have more likely said something we probably regret saying. We've probably done something and it's hurt other people's feelings. Maybe it's not about how it's hurt other people's feelings, but we feel guilty or bad because you want to live a life like Jesus, and Jesus lives, and we've actually made one poor decision. And I think we've all been there too. Maybe it's even lying to your parents. Like, I remember one time saying to my mum, I was in the park when I was really in a different park, about a mile or so away. And mum said she was picking me up. So what I had to do then was run that whole mile to the other park, where then I couldn't stop. Like, I had to do it before my mum even got there. And then I arrived, I told like mum didn't even know, and I just felt guilty. I felt bad for lying to her, so I explained what had happened, and she didn't really care what park I was in, but she would care because I lied. And we so often say and do things without thinking, and we can then feel guilty. And Peter was the same. I think the last thing Peter did before Jesus died was a really hard one. Like I said, Peter said he would never deny Jesus, but he denies him 3 times while Jesus died on the cross. And shortly after Jesus' death and resurrection, Peter sees Jesus on the shore as they are catching fish, and without thinking, like in typical Peter fashion, he jumps out the boat and swims as fast as he can to Jesus on the shore. And it's in this moment they have a conversation which we can read about in John's Gospel. And it says this: when they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," he said, "you know that I love you." And Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." Again, Jesus said, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" And he answered, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." And Jesus said, "Take care of my sheep." And the 3rd time he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" And Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him for a 3rd time, "Do you love me?" And he said, "Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you." And Jesus said, "Feed my sheep." You see, Jesus asked the same questions 3 times, and it was in a response to Peter previously denying Jesus 3 times. It's in this moment that Peter begins to feel restored. It's here that he experiences Jesus' grace towards him. It's not though Peter had done anything, but it was because Jesus was resurrected. Because of the resurrection, Peter was able to experience that grace is greater than guilt. And if you feel guilty, I want to encourage you to take 3 steps you can do. The first step is to be real and upfront about the things that you feel guilty about. The second is to remember that grace trumps guilt. And the 3rd is to continue to show up and be a part of a community where grace is present. If you want to talk about this stuff, you can talk to your small group leaders. They themselves will have encountered God's grace and will be able to extend that grace to you. So know that you are a part of a group, that people care for you and are there for you. And to finish the series, I want to encourage you that after this conversation Peter had, he went on to be a leader of the early church. This conversation was the extension of God's grace, and the power of the resurrection changed this guy's life from just being an ordinary fisherman to someone who spoke to about the love of God to many, many people and experience that love of God for himself. The thing is, this power of the resurrection can change our story. We can have an afterlife story too, because the resurrection wasn't just for the few, but it was for the all. And actually we can live in a life that's transformed and can bring hope to other people. So I want to encourage you this week to take that Easter story and actually have your own afterlife experience. Go and share with other people and extend the grace God has given to you. Have a great week, guys, and I'll see you soon.